Good morning and welcome to the Media Speaks live Saturday morning news show. I'm DLAKE for Prez, David Lake, reporting for the MediaSpeaks.com. Thank you very much. If you haven't noticed already, it's Hat Day on the MediaSpeaks.com Saturday show. I'm joined this morning by Kyle Phillips, KP of the MediaSpeaks.com. Kyle!
Thanks for having me on, D-Lake. How do you like my hat?
I love your hat, dude. It looks awesome for like maybe gardening or just being out in the sun and stuff.
You nailed it. This is my gardening hat, bro.
Sort of looks like you could go on a jungle adventure at the same time too.
Yeah, it's kind of adventurous. A little bit. Little adventurous. Almost a little Indiana Jonesy slash like
Yeah.
professor who can read old languages.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could dig up some archaeology in a hat like that, right?
If me and you were to go into the Amazon with our hats right now, they would just be like, "Oh, you guys are here for a reason. You guys know what you're doing."
Right. And we're also joined by Sam IB DeGangi, Sam of the Correct Views and the
Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to the Saturday edition. And I'm kind of wearing the only hat that I look half decent in.
No,
Sam,
your
Sam's
hat. Yeah. Kyle, what do you think of Sam's hat?
It's hard to place Sam's hat. It's kind of like maybe
It looks good
like
on stage, if he was playing a musical instrument, that hat would look really good, right?
definitely, definitely, or if he was perhaps hunting vampires.
Oh.
It's true. I have a show tonight at Fastbacks near the Cleveland airport. Unfortunately, I have not gone. I don't have any shooting.
Yeah, the Lost Boys called Sam. They want their hat back.
I got
Yeah,
it. I got it. Yeah, I
What's
got
that
it
kid's
from
name?
Vampire.
He wants his hat back. Okay, one of the
Corey
Coreys.
Haim, Corey
Yeah,
Feldman.
I
One of
think
the
it's
Coreys.
one of the Corys. The Frog
Yeah.
Brothers.
But yeah,
I like it
Start
both.
the show talking about the Frog Brothers. What else do we got?
I couldn't imagine any
Hat day.
hat looking better on Sam. It looks great on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all our hats sort of like fit our personalities, but beyond today being Hat Day, one of the first topics that we wanted to discuss this morning is filming police, filming the cops. And Kyle, you brought this article to my attention as I try to go to my screen share without my virus interrupting my.
Yeah, apparently there's a bill that passed the House in Colorado
Mhm.
that this bill is going to make it so if a cop, in any way tries to stop you from filming or obviously there's like if you're interfering with an investigation or something like that, that's one thing, but if they try and stop you without reason from filming, try and delete your footage after you filmed, or try and destroy your recording device, that you can take legal action against them up to $15,000 if I'm remembering correctly.
Up to 15,000 plus attorney fees, according to this article.
That is the most awesome law I've heard about in a very long time.
Yeah, and I know a lot of cops. I work third shift at a gas station. I've worked in 3 different towns, and so you get to know all the police. And I'm really yet to run into a cop who's against this, like a cop who's like, no, I don't want people filming me. All the cops I run into, they're like, yeah, film me doing my job, like, because they're doing their job properly, so they're not worried about it. The guys who run up and grab your camera and smash it are the ones who are doing something illegal and don't want to get caught.
Do we want to take a look at that?
Yeah, you showed me some videos before the show, D-Lake, and yeah, let's look at
Okay,
this
yeah.
one that you showed.
If you want to go to my screen share, I don't have the audio on, but we don't necessarily need it because all it is the people like reacting to the video. The audio is playing in my headset, but the video seems frozen. I think I'm having internet problems, Kyle.
Yeah, well, for anybody who's listening on the audio, and while maybe try and get this to work, the video shows it's a woman who's filming. Like, it looks like it's not just like police. It looks like it's like SWAT guys.
Here we go.
Okay, so she's like filming. She's got her little digital point and shoot camera, and she's filming these 3 police officers in front of this house.
And
The
here we
one
go.
guy walks up on her, and she starts to back up, and he like grabs her. He grabs the camera out of her hand, throws it on the ground, and then kicks it. And it
Kicks
looks
it.
like he says something derogatory to her afterwards.
I had seen
Is
this. I had
she
seen it.
sort of
This
moves
is
forward
disgusting.
at the same time she respects, this big giant guy armed to the teeth. He's a U.S. Marshal, in
AR-15.
fact. Yeah.
Yeah,
She
he's got
retrieves
an
her phone as
AR-15.
she retrieves her phone as the marshals walk away. Now, but obviously this is something going on in a nice sort of suburban-looking California neighborhood. I mean, this lady is, obviously just looks like a citizen there, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
and I want to say that if this is a situation where like they're in the middle of making an arrest, they got a guy on the ground, they're putting cuffs on, and you're 3 feet away in his face with a camera, and he grabs it and throws it, like, well, yeah, that I get that, and I'm not going to hold that officer at fault for that. But this was like obviously there was nothing immediately happening. The cops are standing in front of this house. She's a solid 15, 20 feet away from them filming. Like she is not interfering at all. And this cop's
Okay,
just like, fuck this lady.
right. And even in the shot, you can see the officer's car is pulled up, so it was obviously something that, hey, what's going on? Let me just film over here. You can see in the background an ADT, someone's home security.
Yeah.
So in addition to this woman standing here, I would think that if this house has cameras similar to mine, they're seeing everything happening in front of their house.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, it depends on the security system, but it's very possible. And
But I
I
mean, it's
mean,
very possible that this cop is being filmed by more cameras than just this lady's, considering that someone else is across the street filming her, filming them, getting her camera smashed.
which if you're gonna film police, maybe this is a good tactic if you're worried about them becoming aggressive. Is like I'm gonna film them, you film me, and somebody else will film me. Like so, you have like a line, a chain of command of like I film the incident, you film me filming the incident, somebody films you filming me filming the incident. So like no matter what,
Yeah,
like somebody's footage is
backup.
getting away.
Yeah, you got backup. In the picture on the article that you sent me this morning, Kyle, about legislation that fines cops up to $15,000 plus attorney's fees for interfering with citizens who film them, passes the House. It's still going to go to the Senate there in Colorado, like you mentioned. The picture where it says your right to film cops must be protected is, somewhere someone superimposed someone filming, but this is essentially what happened when this officer shot this gentleman like 8 times in the back as he was fleeing, and it was caught on camera. And then this officer in this particular case went up. He told 911 that the guy stole his taser. Then he
Yeah.
drops the taser by this guy's body that was filmed by a citizen. And the film footage from the citizen is what turned the whole case around, Kyle.
Yes, and I have to say because when I saw that video, I asked some cops that I know about it, and the cop perspective, because I always try and be objective in these situations, and keep in mind that cops are people and think like, what would I do in a similar situation? And what the police officer is saying happened, and it's tough because it's like I wasn't there, and I don't know who's telling the truth and who's not. But the police officer, what he says is that the guy grabbed the taser went off and it hit the guy and it hit the cop, so both of them that got tased. That's why when the video starts you see that they're both like getting up off the ground, and that as the guy ran away, if the taser was still in him, and so like the taser was dragging behind him on the ground, and that like from and I'm
Oh,
not
all
going to
that
say
happened? I didn't get all that from it.
and and we'll watch we should watch the video too because they pointed some things out to me. But and I don't know if I agree with this argument, but it is something that should be said, is that from the police officer's perspective, when the taser's still in him, trailing behind him on the ground, that is a potentially deadly weapon, and it is a weapon that was taken from the police officer and is being fleed with. Now, obviously, it's very different than if the guy grabbed the taser and ran away. It's not like he has it in his hand. It's dragging on the ground behind him. I don't know, like I'm very iffy on this one, but if you watch the video and if you look for it, and there's people on YouTube who have actually like slowed it down and done like the John Madden on the screen drawing on it, you can see the taser line dragging behind him in the grass. So you
Oh, is
can
that
see that
right?
the taser, yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't
Interesting.
know, and it's like, did that officer
Well,
handle it
well,
right? I don't think so, but it changes the situation.
but yeah, I mean, the situation of the story is changed by the additional footage captured by a citizen. So don't you think?
Definitely.
Wouldn't you say that's important? I brought
Well, I
up
look at it as the more people who are filming, the better. The more angles, the more. Because
yeah.
whether a cop does something wrong or a person does something wrong, the more people filming it, the more you know for sure what really happened. And that always is and not always, but generally that is going to play in the favor of the person who is in the right. Not always, because I've seen examples of videos where it looks horrible for the police, but you see it from a different angle and it's like, oh, that's something totally different happened, you know? But the more angles, the more cameras, the better. Nobody loses.
I agree with that. And before I get to what just happened to me last week, if we could hear from Sam. Sam, listen to this. Police union officials are not happy about the bill that's making its way to the Senate after it passed the House in Colorado. And they say that it treats officers unfairly and holds them to a standard that citizens are not held to. I don't know what the hell that means, which is ironic because police typically behave as if they were above the law and not subject to the same standards as everyone else. Now, that maybe that's an unfair irony that they
Well,
pointed out, but
Sam, when you're at work, how many cameras are at your work?
Everywhere,
Yeah,
everywhere,
there's
everywhere at all.
cameras
You
everywhere
you
at my
don't
network too.
you don't have an expectation of privacy in public, and that's been repeatedly mentioned by the Supreme Court, even.
Well, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Somebody can't walk up and take a picture underneath your skirt, and so like there's a reasonable expectation. But when it comes to just being out in public, yeah, you don't. People can film you. Like if you're at your kid's soccer game and the guy next to you is filming the game because his kid's in it, you can't sue him because he's filming your kid too. He has a right to film the soccer game. And when I go to work, there's probably 15 cameras at my work. So anywhere that I go, anywhere in the building, if they want to, they can go back and review that. And if somebody was to make a complaint about me, they totally would go back and review that to see if the complaint was valid. So why not hold them to the same standard that most of us have in our jobs?
And I think if you mention that, somehow people assume that you're anti-cop or you're against cops, and all you're trying to do is simply to get them to prevent what's the best way to say it, to prevent them overstepping their bounds and then saying that the person who was being arrested or being detained was the aggressor when they weren't. I went to this. As soon as you guys started it reminded me of this. Texas sheriff deputy punches pregnant woman. And again, fortunately, a lot of this does get captured on tape. Brent Sanders, Child Protective Services, made a visit to interview a family in Quilon, Texas last week, and things went south very quickly. It all started when one CPS bureaucrat knocked on the door of the residence and directed two Hunt County sheriff deputies to display a court order to come inside and interview the children and family. The owner of the house asked to see the court order again since it was quickly flashed and not properly displayed. According to the homeowner, it says as soon as she requested to view the court order a second time, the police forced their way into the house. She was pinned to the corner of the kitchen where the video starts, and you can clearly see a 38-week pregnant woman as she screams for help and reminds them that she's pregnant. You can also hear the kids crying in the background as the CPS holds off the rest of the family while the officers assault her. She said she was in extreme pain because her stomach was pressed to the countertop. Shortly after that, you can clearly see one of the officers punch the woman twice in the back. After releasing the story, I was contacted by a close friend of the victim, and she was able to provide some additional updates, none of which is good news. She was taken to jail and her son was placed in foster care even though there were family members willing to take the child. She was charged with assaulting an officer, although she denies any assault ever took place. Pardon me. When in jail, she repeatedly asked to have her injuries examined and documented and was fearful for her unborn child. The jail nurse said she didn't want to get involved, fearing for her job, which seems to me to be a breach of the oath you take. You could argue that. No parental care was offered either. She was segregated because she was pregnant in an isolation cell where she slept on bare concrete and blankets, and the lights were left on 24 hours a day. She was awakened every 15 minutes, not because she made any threats to self-harm, but because that was the procedure in isolation cells. She remained there for 6 days, and then when released, she immediately went into her OBGYN. They were able to take pictures of her injuries still present 8 days after the attack. 8 freaking days! They were also able to verify that the injuries were not present before, as they saw her the day before the incident. They also documented that she lost weight while in captivity, not a good thing for a pregnant woman. She gave birth to another son soon after being released, and once again, CPS swooped in and confiscated the newborn at the hospital and placed him with a family member with severely restricted visitation rights, destroying the bonding and the entire breastfeeding process. We have more and more and more of these going on all the time. How long until we have what was just reported on an InfoWars this morning, where the Nazis in the Ukraine burnt somebody alive? I mean, again, is that this bad? No,
Well,
that's a lot
what
worse.
was the reason
But
that they
how long
gave?
till we're there? But I want to give this. Let me find that real quick. Police
What was the
officer.
reason that they gave why they took the children away from her?
I think due to the attack, but I'm not sure. I will say this. Anybody that wants to complain, the ask for Chief Buddy Oxford, 903-453-6800. If anybody wants to call, I'd be willing to make the call on air if it's not going to be the most boring thing you've ever watched. But that's the
See,
phone.
I'm hesitant though, because like I said, I try and be objective and look at all these cases from both sides, and keep in mind that, like, even though I keep hearing about all these police brutality cases, in my own life, all the police officers that I know do not act this way. And like, let me give a juxtaposition of, like, how many times have you had where you talk to a friend about how horrible this confrontation was with the police, and like how they were total assholes and they slammed him onto the ground and they put him in a holding cell, but then you find out after like asking him a few questions, like, oh, you got pulled over for a DUI and they found weed in the car, and like and you fought them when they tried to arrest you, and like you're really only hearing one side from this lady's perspective. And I'm not saying that it is this way, but for all I know, her house is a fucking crack den. Like, I don't know. You know, so it's hard. Have you guys seen the new RoboCop?
But even then, if the, God forbid the house was a crack den, the police are stepping over bounds with this constant pulling you over for everything.
I agree.
Giving sober people, and this war on drugs is out of control.
I mean,
I agree.
I wanted to try to like steer clear of like one particular incident or anything to get too focused on. Kyle, you just brought up a couple good points.
He did.
But
I agree with him. The cops really don't usually beat people like that. When I was snowboarding, his number was either 82 or 86. We had I'd gotten stuck in a ditch because I didn't know where the sewer grate was, and I found it the hard way, and the van got stuck. He spent like 10 or 15 minutes trying to dig us out while we waited for the tow truck. So I definitely don't want to hop on air, and I've thanked him before. This is the second time. But I don't want to miss the good cops either. So, yeah, Kyle is right on that.
Right. But I didn't even want to get into good cop versus bad cop necessarily. I wanted to stay focused on filming the cops and our rights as American citizens to film the cops. Now, I brought up a couple websites like Cop Watch, Cop Block. Kyle, you just brought up the new RoboCop. What did you want to say about that?
Well, just like you guys, you've seen the new RoboCop, DLAKE, Sam?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
All right. In the new RoboCop, there's Sam Jackson has a character that he's like the TV personality who has like a political talk show, and everything that happens throughout the movie, Sam Jackson's character on TV is pro having robot police. So anytime anything happens, Sam Jackson somehow like twists it into like being for robot police in a way that as you're seeing the movie and then the clips of him throughout, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like the one guy who's like a scientist and is the good guy who comes out and is a whistleblower against like the evil corporation, when he comes out and is a whistleblower like and talking to the Senate, Sam Jackson's like, he should be in jail. You know, like you're always getting a bias. And my point is, which I agree with DLAKE, that we should continue on focusing on like the filming of police and our rights as opposed to like police being good or bad. But I'll just end on this. that there's good cops and there's bad cops. There's good people and there's bad people. And I think there's more good cops than bad cops by a long shot. And there's a lot more good people than bad people. But even when a bad person gets what they have coming to them, it always still gets skewed that they were innocent, they didn't do anything wrong. Look at Ferguson, like the dude just robbed a fucking convenience store and strong-armed a dude into the wall, but since he got shot, all of a sudden he's totally innocent, he didn't do anything wrong. You're always going to get a biased view. No matter what you looked at when it came to Ferguson, you either heard that he was totally innocent, he was a good kid, here's his 8th grade graduation photo, or you heard he was a gangster, he was a thug, he was a bad person, and here's a picture of him flashing gang signs, and nobody shows you the middle. That's my only point.
Well, let me point this out while you're talking about the Michael Brown case. I mean, we saw surveillance footage from that liquor store that was supposedly Mike Brown and his accomplice Dorian, who's the one that told the news media, he had his hands up, said don't shoot, which kind of turned out to not be all the way true. But how do we know? I mean, just to stick with filming the cops, if one of the other people in those tenements or in that area or on that street they were walking on when the cop pulled them over, if a third party had video footage, I mean, there was a lot of people that had video footage of the body laying in the street forever, which was wrong.
If
and
five
that
people
video
had
came
their
out, but if
cameras
the
out,
video came out of him rushing the cop or whatever else had happened that we only hear
or not rushing
the
cop.
Or not rushing the cop, or actually having his hands up, or I can't. I mean, wouldn't it be?
We can't say because we didn't see. If 10 people all of a sudden pulled out their cameras, we'd have 10 different angles with 10 different audio and video qualities. We would have a lot more to go on, and we wouldn't have to speculate. And that's why it's a good thing.
Well, okay, here's the perfect time for me to get to my story that just happened to me. It just happened to me this week, I think it was like on Monday. So I'm riding home on the trolley, and of course I have a lollipop because I'm on the trolley aisle, and I'm sitting in like I'm actually facing, I guess you would say, backwards of the way the way that we're going. Anyways, we're at one of the major stops where you change lines, so you tend to stay there longer. Anyways, I'm looking out the window, and there's a guy in a red shirt and a hat, and he has his back to me, and he's talking to a police officer, but I'm not sure because I've seen SDPD, they're there all the time, Border Patrol is there sometimes, different officers, but they also have officers that work the trolley stations. They're part of the trolley system policing. So I don't know which exactly it was. I think it might have been a trolley official. But the guy is talking to the cop. His back is to me. I can see the cop. The cop's kind of standing there with his hands sort of like kind of folded on his chest in a weird way. And the guy's doing all this like hand motion. And he's like, what's up with this and what's up with that? And patting his pockets like, oh, you said blah, blah, blah. And he's talking to him and he's like, oh. And he's real animated. But I'm inside the trolley, so I can't hear what's happening. And I'm kind of wishing, oh man, I wish my camera had.
He was probably, you know what he was probably saying? He was probably like, and then Iron Man took all of his Iron Man suits and they all attacked. He was just telling him about Iron Man 3, but yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I could see the look on the cop's face. He was being confrontational, and he was all like, blah 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 blah.
Really quickly, before you continue that, how you said his hands were kind of in a weird place on his chest. You know what that probably was? He was probably holding his hand over the holster of his taser. But yeah, continue.
He could have been. I mean, it was like this. But here's what happened. We're sitting there for, I'm like at the back of the trolley. There's a couple people sitting behind me. Like I said, we were sitting facing backwards, but we're looking out the window this way. And then it was like the guy, he flips the cop's badge, or like, oh, this fucking badge doesn't mean whatever. Like I'm adding the words, but he physically flipped his chest, flipped his badge on the cop, and then the cop was like, you don't touch me, or whatever, and kind of was pushing it back. And at that point, me and everyone on the trolley, or me and the couple of dudes that were sitting behind me, it was just a couple dudes. It was like a big black guy, a Spanish guy, a couple other people, and we all got to the window like, whoa, it's going down, here we go, it's going down. And I looked back to see, is anybody filming this, And, but the cop, pushed him off, but, pushed him back, how do I say, there was another trolley tracks like right there. I mean, he was pushing him towards the edge of the tracks. Like, I mean, if a fucking trolley came right then, it would have hit him, you know. But it had just taken off, so that wasn't going to happen. But right as he's pushing him, we start taking off. Like, we start leaving right as that's happening. I'm like, is anybody filming this? But he pushed the guy back, and then the cop turned his body, and I thought he was going to go for his gun or his taser or whatever he had on his hip. But he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out his cell phone. And then he was kind of holding the dude at bay and sort of kind of semi trying to grab him as he was like trying to make a phone call. But that's the last I saw. We were like, you know, I'm on the trolley like, okay, there it goes. You know, it's getting further and further away as we take off.
Now, let me look at, let's put two things into perspective here. First of all, do you think that cop was justified in the way that he acted?
Yes. And,
absolutely, right?
And we, you know, on the trolley, we were all excited, like, oh, here it goes, it's going down. But he reached for his phone, and like, it was
but
phone call.
Here's the human element. If you were that police officer, you don't know. You don't know if he's grabbing for a phone or a fucking gun or a knife. And if somebody had, which somebody probably did, let's say that somebody on that trolley did, when you looked around to be like, is somebody filming this? Somebody pulled out their camera phone and started filming it. Now, what that video would show is cop pushing around a guy and grabbing him for getting his cell phone out, and that's what the description would read on YouTube. And that's a cultural problem. That doesn't mean that I'm totally for we should be filming, but there is a cultural problem we need to acknowledge, and I'll even say it straight out. It's specifically within the libertarian community that people want to get the viral watch, and so they'll take that video where you even said the cop was totally justified, put a little description that makes it seem different, and all you see in the video is a cop pushing a guy.
Well,
have you ever seen Photography is Not a Crime? I'm sure you guys have. That site, they have some people, and I often wonder if they're doing just that. And again, that's not a stab at the site. That's a stab at the people that do it.
Yes, but that's something that we need to solve culturally, and if we want the right to film police, we also, and specifically us three being part of the libertarian community, need to kind of call people out when they're doing that, and there's been a few cases with people that we know, I won't name names, but there's been cases that we've seen where that's exactly what happened, and we need to be apt to call them out and say, hey, if you're going to be filming police, do it, but don't just upload anything and add your own fake narrative to it.
Yeah, and don't be like Nightcrawler and think that you're getting the exclusive footage like 2 feet away from a crime scene or an accident scene. I mean, stand back, get back.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have a problem with, you know, anyone on that trolley filming because, I mean, if the cop would have handled things differently and, God forbid, like shot the guy right there and we had it on film, I would have been like, everybody give me your number and, like, let's stay in touch. But I brought up these two websites, Cop Watch and Cop Block. And, you know, there's a lot of different opinions about what these people do, but I think essentially at the bare root minimum of it, Kyle, is I believe that we should be allowed to film the police. And, like,
absolutely.
I wouldn't mind if filming something, you know, that got a quadrillion hits on YouTube, you know? I mean, come on. Like,
well, but my point is that with everything, and this is a great example of it, there's a legal side and a cultural side. It's the same thing that I feel about, like, abortion. I don't think that abortion should be illegal because there's situations where it's necessary, but if somebody is using abortion for birth control and just, like, getting pregnant every few months and going and getting another abortion, like, that doesn't make that okay. Like, we should still, as a culture, shun that person. Like, we should make them feel bad for what they've done. But it should be legal.
Yeah, just because something is legal doesn't mean that it's moral or that you're not a scummy person for doing it.
Yes, so if you film a cop doing something and you only get the part where they tackle the guy to the ground, not the part where the guy pulled out the knife or whatever, hypothetical, and you go on YouTube and you say, look at this police brutality, like, you are an asshole. Like, that is not the point of filming police. The point is that, so, in the unlikely case that a cop is doing something bad, or in the case where, you know, somebody does something bad to a cop and they go and lie about it and say it happened differently, no matter what the case, the more angles, the better, so that we know what really happened.
So, Kyle, you're in favor of cops having body cameras?
Yeah, absolutely.
And are you also in favor of dash cams?
Definitely, yeah.
And this video that I sent you earlier about this cop that was cleared of charges because the guy that he rammed with his car in Arizona, he was an armed suspect on a rampage. He had robbed a 7-Eleven armed, or a strong-armed 7-Eleven with a lead pipe. Then he proceeded to set fire to a church. Then he reportedly stole a gun and ammunition from a Walmart. And now he's walking down the street and he shoots off a shot. And the one cop is sort of staying at bay, telling the other cops to stay at bay. And then the other cop just says, "Screw all this waiting around shit," and rams him with a car. Kyle, can you go to my video? Here we. I'm narrating. Okay, that guy just let off a shot. I don't have my sound on, but I'll narrate as
shoots
the
one
officer.
off in the air.
And keep in mind, this is cops releasing their own dash cam footage. So I mean, that's a good thing, right, Kyle?
Definitely, and I think that should all be open source. I think whatever town you live in, you should be able to go onto their website and get the live feeds. It doesn't hurt anybody.
I think so too. I mean, that's the best way that citizens can police the police, which is something that I think that we need. Okay, the cop is saying that he's not the one that set off a shot. It was the perpetrator or the suspect there that you can see walking down the street. He just walked past that Winnebago.
He's just walking in like a neighborhood, by the way.
He's armed, but he's heading towards a plant with a lot of people, like a manufacturing plant. Okay, he's telling this other cop way in the distance to keep his distance. But then there's another cop that comes speeding up and says, "Screw all this waiting around shit."
Fuck this noise.
Boom!
Fuck. Bam.
Sends the dude flying and hit a brick wall. Now
Oh,
let's
you
look
talked. No. You got to do it again, DLAKE, because Kyle talked and it took the it took the feed away.
If Kyle's on my screen, it's okay. When he hits the guy does a double flip. He was in the hospital for 2 days. He survived. The cop hits a cinder block wall, and then we see it from the speeding in cop's angle.
Yeah, show it one more time so that Sam can see it. All right, and then they show his dash cam too.
Here it comes. I mean, the car got more fucked up from the brick wall than the guy. Man,
And, like, again, I look at this objectively and as a human being.
The guy. Did he hit the guy?
Yeah, he hit the dude. Clipped him. He didn't hit him he hit him head on, but like the guy hit like driver's side corner, so he didn't hit him like dead center.
And he did a double backflip. It was 10 points on the flip there.
I didn't see the flip, but ow.
Kyle,
I mean, looking at
Kyle, just to keep this brief, I mean, when I showed this to you earlier, I said the cop was cleared of all charges because the guy was on a rampage. And you're like, well, if he was on a rampage, then maybe this was okay. What, Kyle?
Yeah, well, I mean, I look at it like that cop and all of those cops are human beings. They're people. And people, when there's a dude on a rampage, whether you have a uniform is just a fucking costume, like, you're still going to be scared. And, like, this guy's on a rampage. He's shot a ton of places, just been fucking going Grand Theft Auto. He's heading towards a place with a ton of people, shooting a gun off in the air. Do I think that cop should have to put his life at risk by getting out of the vehicle if it's not necessary? Like, what he did solved the fucking problem.
And
like,
he was... And just to add to the offenses, besides burning down a church, he was pointing his gun at officers. He at one point he had the gun to his own chin, threatening to commit suicide. So this guy was obviously off the chain. You know, I mean,
he's lucky the cop didn't choose to just mow him over.
I mean, Kyle just said. I mean, the guy thought he was playing GTA, and maybe so did the cop. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, could he have handled it better? Like, yeah, probably, but I'm not going to fault him for not. Like, in that situation,
right.
I'd want to do it in the way that puts me at the least risk possible, and that seemed to be it. And, like, even the guy, you're telling the story about the guy in the trolley. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm not saying whether you agree with this or disagree with this, but we live in a reality, and there's certain things that are true about that reality, whether you like them or not. And if you're like screaming at a cop and you flick his badge, you're probably going to get tackled, right? Right or wrong, whether you agree with that or disagree with that, you do agree that that's the reality, right? And we all know that. The
trolley took off, so I didn't see the final containment of the guy. I think I've seen that guy on the trolley before. I mean, we were at a trolley stop, and like.
But despite what that cop did, just in general, if you are screaming at a cop and then you hit their badge, we all agree that you're probably going to get tackled.
And to point out what you said, no one started filming at the onset where the cop was legitimately just standing there listening to what the guy had to say for at least 4 minutes before the guy did the badge flick and things got confrontational. So no one would have started filming until it started getting confrontational, right?
Yes.
I mean, for the most part, you know. I mean, we
And
were all
that's where
filming with our eyeballs, but
and everything else we rely on you, the filmer, to tell us what happened that got you to pull your camera out. And the sad fact is that a lot of people will not be truthful in what happened leading up to it.
But I definitely think the law should be there to hold police accountable, especially when they go smash some lady's camera, like what
Definitely. And I said this before.
Or they harass you for filming them when you're well enough away from the scene, you know.
And as a libertarian, like, I don't hate police. I like police, but my relationship with police and government is like an autistic child. Like, I like you, I want you there, I understand you serve a purpose, but don't touch me or I'll freak the fuck out. Yeah. Like, doesn't mean I don't like you and I don't respect the fact that there is a purpose for you, but like, when you do something you shouldn't, like, you should be held responsible for.
I mean, don't you think police should be more like firemen? Like, look, don't just harass me on a daily basis for walking down the street funny or whatever. Just wait at the station for me to call you when something bad is happening.
Absolutely, but here's the other part of that, which is where there's the legal side and the cultural side. There's too many people who are just fucking phone happy. They are ready to call 911 at any little thing. And cops, like, it does put them in a certain mindset when they get 50 calls a day about stupid shit like, my kid won't take a shower, threaten to arrest him, my neighbors are looking at me funny. Like, people need to stop calling the police for stupid fucking reasons. Like, I saw something suspicious a few months ago. Like, I'm sitting, I work third shift, so I'm home early in the morning. I'm watching TV, and I notice that there's a car parked directly in front of the house next to me, and he's just sitting there for like 15 minutes. So I go, all right, the guy's sitting there for 15 minutes right in front of her front door. I'm going to go outside and have a cigarette. Me going outside to have a cigarette, it's non-confrontational. I might be just randomly going out to have a cigarette anyways. And I kind of like look over there, and the second he sees me looking at him, he looks at me, and he slams it into drive, and he speeds off while staring at me as he drives past. And that was super sketchy to me, right? But I'm not going to call the police over that. I went inside, I wrote down a description of the guy, the description of the car, what I could remember from the license plate, and if I see the cops over there in an hour, I'll go over and say, hey, I saw something. But I'm not just going to call the cops over that. Like, people need to be less like phone happy, ready to call 911 about everything.
I take mental notes of weird, suspicious stuff all the time, so I definitely agree with you on that. And also, there should be a campaign that kind of reinforces to people in America how to use 911, because we hear about misuse all the time.
Oh, and yeah.
I don't know. I think modern day culture needs a refresh, update exactly how to use 911. To be honest.
Yeah, I talk to cops and they tell me, which I won't say any stories specifically, so that it can't somehow get trailed back to them. Yeah. They tell me some of the stupidest fucking stories of why they get called. Old people who will call because their neighbor parked in the road overnight, and it's like, how does that even affect you? They parked in the road in front of their house. Technically, that's a traffic ordinance or whatever. It's a parking violation, but why do you even care? Okay, you got to veer a little bit to get her. Who cares? My neighbors do that all the time. I have neighbors who they have ATVs and dirt bikes and a ton of cool shit, and every few days I'll see them just and they go past my window on an ATV. I'm like, that's cool as fuck. I wish I had an ATV, but I always wonder how long until one of these old geezers fucking calls the police because they're mad that they don't have an ATV. People are just cynical, and it's not even, most of the reasons that people call police isn't even about there being a real, it's not about crime, it's about them being angry. It's the same as
revenge.
It's the same as a fat girl who sees an attractive girl walking down the street and mumbles slut. It has nothing to do with anything except for that you don't like that they have or are capable of something that you are not. It's like fucking Ginny from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She's not mad that her brother gets away with cutting school all the time. She's mad that she can't get away with it. You know?
Yep.
Just mind your own fucking business, people. Mind your own business.
Very good analogy.
Yeah, double down on that analogy. Ferris Bueller, John Hughes, good stuff.
Bueller.
All right, so what else do we got to talk about? I feel like we've been talking about
Yeah, we
filming
have been.
cops.
Look, I wanted to get into Clinton Cash, the new book that's coming out, but you know what? To be honest, and it's like, okay, we have to rebrand the new Clinton, same as the old Clinton, rebranding Clinton Inc. And what did Bill Clinton do? And the uranium deal looks kind of shady. I don't know if you guys know anything about that.
The uranium deal, I do we should talk about that for a second, yes.
I gotta
All right,
open my
Sam.
window. You guys start.
Well, the whole Clinton Cash thing is Clinton Cash is the name of a book by Peter Schweitzer that's not due to come out until May 5th, but a bunch of stuff came out politically already this past week about, it was kind of like a trailer for the book, like, oh, the book is coming, and then the New York Times and a bunch of these other websites pick it up, and they're all looking for ties to Hillary's time in the State Department, the 32,000 deleted emails. Uh, I don't know Hillary Clinton's involvement when she was in the State Department. But Sam, what do you know about the uranium deal? Because basically, a bunch of shit's going to come out. The Clintons are going to deny, deflect, and demean and say it's all that vast right-wing conspiracy of those stupid damn Republicans. That's what the Democrats will say. The Republicans will say that they're all shady and shifty and all the money looks like a conflict of interest. But Sam, what do you think?
Well, I heard about it from Michael Savage of all places. Um, it looks as though the Clintons are involved in some deal that sold American uranium to Russia, which of course now opens up the door to whether or not that could be used for future, bombs targeted at us. I didn't get to hear as much of it as I would have liked to, but I do know that anytime you sell massive amounts of uranium to somebody that was an enemy as recently as 20 years ago, it does make 25 years ago, it does make you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time he did it, I don't even think it was that long ago. Obviously, it would have been much more recent when you think about it. The wonders of life. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't even that long ago, looking back, that they were the enemy, and now this looks like something that's going to be a huge deal. If what I heard about it was right, and again, I didn't get to focus on this story to the degree that I would have liked to have.
Right, Sam. Well, during a freaking MSNBC news thing, which Breitbart points out that it's kind of weird that MSNBC was talking about this, but Bowler said, well, this uranium story left all kinds of context in terms of who approved that deal. If you read that story, at the end, you'd think Hillary Clinton changed U.S. policy midstream because someone paid her husband for a speech. That is not even remotely close to what happened. The problem with that is I think it is sort of close to what happened. And either way, it's like the Clintons violated their standards of disclosure to the White House. And now, what's his name? Ernest, the fucking public relations guy for Josh Ernest for the president. He says that he's starting to get tired of defending the Clintons. Well, if the Clintons were violating their disclosure agreement while they were in your administration and Hillary Clinton was using a private fucking email, then you should have something to say about it, Josh Ernest! Stupid
I believe
motherfucker!
the question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir.
I don't get to use that drop too often, and I saw an
That was
opportunity.
It was an excellent drop.
All right, Kyle. Did you hear about this book, Clinton Cash, coming out on May 5th? That could, it basically raises a bunch of questions. They say it doesn't have any smoking gun, but did you know that Trey Gowdy on the Benghazi Select Committee is asking that Hillary Clinton appear twice before him in the upcoming months, once on her emails and once on Benghazi, once Trey Gowdy feels that he has all the information from the emails to ask her proper questions about Benghazi, and how do you feel about that?
Well, we don't even have the emails, do we?
He wants
Only
to
the
question
ones that
her.
she
He wants to
decided to
question
give?
her about those practices, those email practices, and thinking that you can just delete whatever the fuck you want. So I mean, how do you feel about that?
She should be brought up on criminal charges, honestly. This isn't like you didn't know, like you didn't know that there was this policy and it was like an accident, like I didn't know that I was supposed to use, like, no, you fucking knew, and you went like way the fuck out of your way to make sure that you had a private server. It's not like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't use Gmail, like, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't hire somebody to come put a private server in my basement and then use that for all of my emails. Like
Yeah, and that
she should
just
be brought
goes
up
to
on charges.
that just goes to the emails, not the other sort of scandal, which is the Clinton Foundation, which some of those deleted emails might tie to that scandal. And it's like with the Clinton Foundation, Bill Clinton made like $23 million in speeches while
Yeah.
she was Secretary of State, and that number went up while she was in a position of power within the government.
And if you have a
And
foundation is a charitable
something.
organization. You're not supposed to like even make a profit off of it.
Oh yeah, and the amount that they give to charity is just like pitiful, and like the amount that they pocket. Oh, but here's what I was just about to say is that now they're basically they misrepresented the money. Like there was like 2 or 3 years on their taxes they said they made $0, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go back and redo all those 990E forms or whatever our tax. We're gonna go back and redo those tax forms now. They're gonna go back and redo 5 years worth of taxes before they get audited, and no one's doing the audit. Here, look, let me just break it down for you. The Clinton Foundation, the Clinton cash, is there any bribery there against the Constitution, like Mitt Romney pointed out, saying potentially it could be there? Look, we're not going to know a damn thing unless we get a super lawyer in the United States who's willing to fucking bring this to court and take her ass down. And if that doesn't happen, like Judge Napolitano said, then she's just going to get away with it again. So whatever. They're the Clintons. They can get away with it.
Well, I
Fucking
was just
forget it.
you,
I don't
you
even want
just
to talk about it anymore. Okay, go ahead.
you just reminded me talking about that and talking about the tax issues. I'm gonna try and look it up. They were talking about it on Mark Levin, that like MSNBC, they're like the super liberal progressive channel,
Yeah.
the progressive news organization, and that like a really large number of like their like high-ranking employees, like producers, show hosts, like the higher up people, the people who you know their names, they all owe back taxes. They all owe like massive amounts of taxes back because they like did like sketchy stuff to try and pay less taxes. And that like the amount of people at MSNBC who owe like multiple thousands of dollars in back taxes is like ridiculous.
Tory and Rachel
Here we
Maddow
go.
and other.
On Fox News, which of course Fox News is going to go after NBC, so take it with a grain of salt. But MSNBC hosts owe a ton of money in back taxes. Oh, this is just a video. It doesn't give me the actual information. Let's see. So apparently Hannity was doing a lot of talking about this. Let me go back and see if I can find an actual article. But I remember it was like Jesse Jackson was one of them who owes a ton of money. Here, Fox News, liberal hypocrisy. This is from one day ago. There's one on the Blaze too. Sean Hannity. Come on, stop being fucking gay. I hate when websites like load, but then they fucking change 5 seconds after they load. So during each year, blah blah blah. Al Sharpton, Harris Perry,
Oh yeah, Melissa Harris Perry. That's who I was thinking of. And not Rachel Maddow. Harris Perry. Yeah.
There's just like a huge list of people who owe.
And they go on their news station telling you, you better pay your fair share and all that
Yeah,
shit.
people need to pay their fair share, but all of those fuckers owe back taxes. And like, I'm not defending Republicans right now, but like, you don't hear about that with Republicans. The worst you hear is Mitt Romney didn't want to release his tax information. Like, it's ridiculous.
Did you know Chuck Norris never pays taxes? He just sends him a picture of himself in the crouching position, like I don't pay taxes, motherfucker.
That's true. I've heard that. It's such hypocrisy that it's like, well, everybody should pay their fair share except, well, I'm different. You know, I'm special.
Well, I'm on MSNBC, so you know.
Yeah, so obviously I'm not talking about myself when I say that rich people should pay their taxes. I'm talking about other rich people who aren't on MSNBC.
They're like, I'm baby rich. I'm not rich rich. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. But he was going over the numbers, and a lot of the hosts, he even said, which he was correct, Mark Levin was talking about it. He's like, you probably don't even know most of these people's names because you don't watch MSNBC because nobody does, but he's like, and he just gave the list of names. And he was right. There were like 3 names on the list of like 10 people that I actually recognize.
Yeah. Well, they have a couple more hundred viewers than we do, but that's cool. Well,
Yeah, a few hundred.
We're still climbing. We're still on our way. We're on the way up. They're on their way down. When was the last time they had a fucking hat day? I mean, come on.
Yeah. They haven't had a hat day probably ever.
When was the last time they had Sam's Science News section? Sam.
They probably had no news from Sam ever. They probably had no science news from Sam. They probably don't even have a theme song. They probably don't even have a theme song for Sam's Science News.
But we do.
It's time to learn some science. So hit Sam with the science front.
Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to news from the science front. This is from Popular Mechanics. 23 places we found water in our solar systems. Oceans, ices, vapors, and more. Very happy to see this because it's in our backyard, so to speak. Last week brought the news of Enceladus likely has a warm, salty ocean. And a lot of us have been saying for a long time, look at Enceladus. And that liquid water lurks beneath the surface of Ganymede. These findings are continuing to chip away at the once-held belief that the solar system was dry and barren, bereft of water. It seems there are few places in the solar systems without some amount of water, whether liquid or solid. There's even a small amount of water on Venus, something like 20 parts per million, and every time a source of liquid water is found or suggested, it brings up the chances of life on that world because of the way water acts as a solvent, facilitating the metabolic process at the most basic level of life. That's also why the hunt for extraterrestrial life, quite doubtfully of an intelligent sort, though we've found some remarkable octopuses on Earth, has turned up from distant solar systems and our own cosmic backyard. So the good news here is that they're not even rolling out rather complex life forms. Once you have water, it's on. Here's a breakdown. It says oceans on Europa have been all but confirmed. It has the biggest contender for life for years now on Europa, with a craggy, icy crust hinting in almost every way at an ocean below. Thanks to the tidal effects from Jupiter, that is friction from inside the moon created by the pull of the planet's gravity, and in Jupiter's case, that's huge. Excuse me, friends. The water would be kept liquid and possibly even warm below the icy crust, helped by possible hypothermal vents. There have been some evidence of icy geysers shooting up from the surface of Europa, as well as evidence that the ocean could have Hadley cells, that's warm water radiating from the moon's equator. Europa could provide the possibility for not just life, but the conditions are just right. Even complex life. Going back to our octopuses, it says we've known of tiny, sleepy Enceladus since 1789. It's only 310 miles smaller than Ceres and Vesta, the 2 largest objects in the asteroid belt. And we've mentioned we'll be landing on Ceres in no time. Compare that to Europa, slightly smaller than our moon at 1,950 miles in diameter. Despite it being small, it's one of the most intriguing places in the solar system and best candidates for warm, wet, salty ocean.
That's what she said.
It said it's a high probability for life, if not higher than Europa. Enceladus orbits the rings of Saturn. In fact, watery eruptions from Enceladus icy geysers comprise the F ring of the gas giant. The moon spews 1,000 tons of water into space every hour, according to Phil Pyatt at Bad Astronomy, along with organic molecules, salt, and other minerals. Recent research suggests that the ocean is very warm thanks to the tidal effects of Saturn. And again, not as strong as Jupiter, but Saturn is in fact massive. The tug causes hypothermal activity, which causes the oceans and causes geysers of all kinds of hotbeds that sprawled on Earth. There's the probablys, and that would be Ganymede. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, bigger than even the planet Mercury. Astronomers had long suspected that an ocean lies beneath the 100-mile thick ice crust of the surface, and in a new study, and there's a link to it, aurora activity suggests that the ocean is somewhat warm and definitely salty. That, friends, in case you don't know, is the recipe for life on this planet.
That's also what she said.
Unlike Europa, no ice geyser activity has yet been spotted. This could be because of a reduced tidal effect on the moon, which is further from Jupiter than Europa. Unlike Europa, it doesn't have the cross-hatched icy surface showing consistent geological surface activity. Still, the signs are good that Ganymede is harboring an ocean. The maybes, I think it's Callisto. It is smaller in comparison to Ganymede, and as the furthest out of the 4 Galilean moons of Jupiter, it's bombarded by the least amount of radiation. That could be good. It also has a magnetic field, adding some additional protection. Again, if you don't have a decent atmosphere of some kind or a very deep ocean, the radiation could pose as a big problem.
Right.
At least according to many forms of life that we know of. It says we know there's water there, we just don't know if it's liquid. Castillo's relative lack of geologic activity suggests that the moon might not be able to sustain an ocean without the presence of some kind of antifreeze compound within, meaning that there could be just a whole lot of ice in there. However, as the furthest out of the satellites, it could make an interesting destination for exploration, allowing you to avoid the harshal effects of Jupiter's radiation while remotely exploring the other moons for signs of life. That would be another way to do that without getting juiced from Jupiter. And again, we've found bacterial life in the most radiated pools of Fukushima, and we didn't think anything could live in those environments, and now we know differently.
It kills the robots.
Might be the only good thing we've gotten from Fukushima. It says Cirrus has known since 1801 that we've known about Cirrus. We've reported on it many times here on the science front.
Yeah.
But its small size has made it difficult to study. Until recently, it was believed to be a relatively rocky body, but recent observations from Hubble and evidence from the Dawn spacecraft, which have just arrived there, have raised an intriguing possibility that Cirrus is less a ball of rock and more a watery dwarf planet made from the icy mantle of a slushy ocean below. Located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, that would be the nearest oceanous neighbor. If that is true, it would be the nearest world to Earth with an ocean. And we'll know more as Don's work continues. Again, they've seen 2 lights on there, and NASA now has not even been looking at what the lights were. Again, is it a cover-up? It's just interesting that every time some anomaly that really stands out comes out, NASA never wants to address it. And that's another one. There are 2 lights on Cirrus that they will not explain. It says the red planet probably once had oceans, including one covering a good chunk of the northern hemisphere. There are traces of water left on the surface, including compounds from the evaporation of an ancient ocean, as well as seasonal water ices covering the surface of the planet. There is some evidence pointing to occasional melting on the surface as well. That much is clear, but there's an intriguing possibility that Mars still has water underneath the surface, possibly in the forms of aquifers. Theoretically, these underground waterways could still host microbial life under the surface of Mars, which is what happens here. The question is whether this water exists as ice or liquid, and how much of it lurks beneath the soil. An entire ocean's worth is unlikely, but a significant amount of subsurface water isn't. Further missions in 2020's rover and Russia's ExoMars probe will look specifically for signs of organics and water under the Martian surface. And there's also Dione. It says the team behind NASA's Cassini probe, which has turned up many of the exciting finds about Saturn and its moon, jokingly called Dion a weaker copycat of Enceladus. This Saturn moon is much less active now than in the past, but it shows signs of geologic activity, including a giant mountain peak and other evidence pointing to warmer histories. It's possible that the moon retains enough of that heat for a small ocean to exist. Pluto and maybe even Charon, New Horizons, will fly by Pluto this summer. Very excited about that.
Yeah,
It's becoming
Pluto now a dwarf planet, and Ceres a dwarf planet. I mean, don't you think that's politically incorrect to call them dwarfs? I mean, come on.
There's a lot of things about Pluto that make it that it should be its own planet.
What
I
about
should do a whole report on that sometime.
What about 2003 UB313? Do you know anything about that, Sam?
Is that the second Earth?
That's a dwarf planet out past
Oh,
Pluto,
that's what I
according
was
to this new solar system map.
Yeah, they were going to give it a name, like an actual name that people can remember, and I don't know if they ever did. It says it's going to become the first spacecraft to directly visit the world since it was known as the ninth planet. It may discover something that once seemed unlikely, which would be an ocean. It is still mostly an icy world. However,
are you talking about
yes, it says the tidal forces from its orbit with its largest moon, Charon, combined with what scientists, they type on it, not me, combined with what scientists say the violent formation of the system. It's a large collision likely formed Pluto and its 5 moons out of the same material. That means that Pluto could have hosted an ocean and leaves open the possibility that one is still around. Again, its moon Charon is going to be what's creating enough heat to melt the ice, which would be out there in what we used to think was just frigidness. But now we know the moons spinning around each other themselves.
Poor Pluto.
Noticeably absent Titan. It said it seems odd that we would not include Titan, Saturn's largest and arguably most fascinating satellite, on the list. Titan has some of the most abundant pools of liquid water found anywhere in the solar system. But these might be in the form of methane, a hydrocarbon chain that's good for life, but not necessarily as we know it. Still, Titan deserves to be mentioned if a tally of potentially habitable places is to be mentioned. Icy bodies, Mimas, of course, the Death Star moon, is pretty much a big snowball. There doesn't seem to be much more on there than water ice. Yet a few unusual features hint at something weird on Mimas. The moon wobbles as it orbits Saturn, which indicates something unusual going on beneath the surface. The Cassini team says that it could be an ocean, but
it looks
only
like
maybe.
the Death Star too, huh? Look at this.
It does. It really does. It says the other The other chief possibility is that Mimas has a football-shaped core, giving it an unusual tilt.
Mm-hmm.
And around the size of Enceladus, the moon is too small to retain the heat from its formation. So any ocean on Mimas would have to be outside the surface, acting on it, possibly radioactive decay. We have Triton, which is the largest moon of Neptune, and it looks a lot like Pluto. Said there's
Sam,
a reason. Yeah.
Just real quick, all these planets and moons have really cool names, don't you think? Triton and the Death Star moon and Neptune and Pluto.
We need the DLAKE moon. The DLAKE moon.
Yeah, I was thinking the Deganji moon, but that's cool.
Deganji does sound cooler.
Yeah.
It says but see, if we can find the lake moon, there's always water in lakes. It says there's a reason for that. Its retrograde backwards orbit in comparison to the rest of the system suggests that Triton could be captured. Yeah, I can talk today. Kuiper belt object, and not something that formed alongside the planet. The moon's surface seems to be a mix of methane and water ices, much like Pluto. And there is an outside chance of an internal ocean. That's great news, provided there's enough heating or radioactive decay. The moon likely has geysers, but instead they are probably shooting nitrogen, giving the moon a thin atmosphere. We just don't know much else about Triton. The only close-up imaging came from Voyager's flyby, and that was back in '89. In closing, we've got Titania, Oberon, and Umariel, more cool names. And these are Uranian moons. We need to take a better look at them, but primarily indications show that Titania and Oberon are likely ice and rocky materials. Neither has, at the time, enough evidence to support a liquid water hypothesis with an antifreeze agent like ammonia. Umbriel, too, is largely composed of ice, but it is even less likely to have an ocean. It does, however, contain a bright spot of ice near one of its poles, likely the effect of a crater impact on the surface. There is also evidence of carbon dioxide gases trapped under the
You
ice.
can see it right here. Look at that.
And we've reported on this before. It's possible that
Umbriel.
if there's life on a meteor that can live within its spinning and have enough heat to live, usually bacteria.
Fungus. Spores
If it was to land on Pluto, then in essence, Pluto would have alien life on it. It wouldn't be Pluto's life. So that's why they look at a lot of these oceans and impact craters. It says these moons of Saturn appear primarily frozen, though there's an outside chance of liquid water on Rhea. That's Rhea. These worlds are relatively inert, though Lapidus shows evidence of water sublimation that's moving directly from solid to gas on the surface. The moons are not good candidates for liquid water. They demonstrate the sheer abundance of water that we're talking about. We've mentioned the Kuiper Belt. There are hundreds of known objects in the Kuiper Belt, which DLAKE and I are going to name all of them, where Pluto resides, many of them believed to be icy. The dwarf planets Eris and Humeria are believed to be similar to Pluto in comparison, with water ice on the surface. These worlds have been discovered only in the last decades. There are a few dwarf planet candidates as well, which it would be Varuna Quaoar, that's Quaoar, and Orcus. The latter has some indication of cryovolcanism and could potentially have a liquid ocean because of the heat coming from that. There are also a number of comets in the Kuiper Belt and beyond that are believed to be composed of water. That includes the first identified member of Oort cloud Sedna. And would you believe that there is a little bit of water? Yeah. There's a little bit of water on Mercury, which we thought was impossible. And that's the most surprising place on the list where water has been detected. That's the closest planet to the sun. While the surface is scorching, the poles are often untouched by the sun's heat, leading to an area where ice can accumulate. I did not know there was ice on Mercury. I don't know if anybody else knew that. If you did, good for you. In October, the Mercury Observing Messenger spacecraft snapped some polar folders of frozen ice caps on Mercury. Liquid water is unlikely because Mercury is so hot, but Messenger found signs that some of the accumulations are recent. It says the Moon and Mercury were not only so different in appearance, but both are airless rocky worlds, and both seem to have accumulations of water at the poles. That includes our Moon. And again, we didn't land up there. No, of course not. Scientists had long suspected that ice could be on the Moon. India proved it in 2009 by crashing Chandrayaan 1 probe headlong into the ice and seeing plumes that it formed. While it is far from abundant, the water ice on the Moon could help out the Moon colonization someday if we ever get back there. Neptune and Uranus, and I would love to see life on Uranus because it's such a beautiful planet. It says there's another way to your grade school science textbook was appended. Some researchers have begun calling Neptune and Uranus ice giants rather than gas giants. And I've always said if you can't land a ship on it, it shouldn't be called a planet. In part, this is due to the abundance of ice that lower levels of the planets in weird states that possibly are created by intense pressure.
Wait a second. If we can't land a craft on it, it should not be called a planet?
No, if it's just made up of gas and it's all like mush, that's not a planet. Water vapors have been spotted in the upper atmospheres of these worlds, while ices on the lower parts of the atmospheres are suspected, especially in the mantle. The area of hot ice is in the lower atmosphere. Some astronomers have gone on to propose oceans in both planets. That includes Uranus, though they would be nothing like the big blue bodies of ice that we know. The boiling temperatures would keep what would otherwise evaporate into some solidified state under incredible pressure. So there's likely not life all over the planet, but it would be in these areas.
No, I just saw that this week at certain air pressures you can have boiling water and freezing water at the same time.
Yeah, and you've got weird things like Bose-Einstein condensates, which can happen in the extreme cold, which is where all the levels of the atom are equal. It says there are hundreds more places in the solar system where water can be found, whether tiny ice-packed moonlets never given an official mythological name, which DLAKE and I were talking about, or just areas where the moderate accumulation of ice. Trace amounts of water vapor have been detected on Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn. Still, it speaks to an abundance in our solar system and the way our views have changed from a dry solar system with a pale blue dot that would be us in the midst to one where there is in fact abundant water and rife with possibilities of life. So there you go, friends. I've given you a rather long science update today, but the next time somebody tells you that there is no chance of life in our solar system, please send them to this video, and if nothing else, it will save you a lot of reading. Thank you for listening. What do you guys think?
Incredible.
I think that's all. Like, the possibility of life on other planets is always going to be interesting. And you talking about all those planets, it reminded me of. Have you heard of solar sail technology?
No.
There's an organization called the Planetary Society, which Bill Nye is the CEO of, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is a member of as well. I think he's a board member. And they are pretty much like the private, non-for-profit version of NASA. And obviously not to the same degree. They're doing a lot of research and stuff, though, but they're launching this this spacecraft that's very small. It's the size of like a loaf of bread, and it's called the light sail. And what it does is it somehow uses light from the sun or from a star for propulsion. So the photons hit this like solar light sail, and it gives it a very small amount of propulsion. And the idea behind this is that in the future we can use this on obviously larger scales and have spacecraft that can travel to other planets without having to store fuel, or at least as much fuel, because the main long-haul distances will be done using light sail acceleration. So
That
you would only
makes
need fuel for
sense
like
because
landing.
I've always wondered, Kyle, why they can't use the abundant amount of radiation that's out there to propel something. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I've always wondered why we can't use solar power at night.
no, I mean they're working on this test run. They know that it'll work, that you can propel something, but they're experimenting with guiding it, the equivalent of like, turning the sail on a sailboat in one direction to get you to push it in a different direction, and pretty much being able to aim where it sends you.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
what about space wind? Is there wind in outer space?
no.
Sometimes caused by the spinning of other planets. They've been known. One of the ways they get out to Pluto is to use the immense whip of Jupiter's speed and Saturn's
Yeah,
speed.
slingshot.
But yeah, that only in that
yeah.
instance, I think. But again, with space, you never want to say anything for sure. But
Yeah,
I
but
think
as far
Apollo
as we
13,
know,
they
it's
had to do the
space is a bad
slingshot,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this light sail technology actually could take us, or at least robots built by us, to further and further planets than we've ever been able to go to before. So that's always very interesting to me. The thing that gets me down is, like, until we have a warp drive, we're never going to these places. A human being will never go. Like, these planets.
I really think they're going to do probably something with wormholes or that kind of technology, finding out how that works. I think that's going to be probably the key. I think that's what, to some degree, some of the where we reported on the Obama's pilot. For those of you that think I'm talking about crazy people here, I'm not. We talked about how Obama's pilot got caught in something that maybe, not saying it is, it's a hat and it's not made out of tinfoil, maybe a wormhole. I think something to that effect could be, Christelle and I watched a Bermuda Triangle special, and it's documented fact that a guy flew through one of these, and an hour and a half flight took 45 minutes, and you would have needed a jet to get there as quick as he did. And they know what time he took off, they know what time they lost him on radar, and they know what time he landed. It's a National Geographic Bermuda Triangle special. It's
and were the Langoliers there as well?
perhaps, but they know. But so whether or not that's a wormhole, or maybe they'll find out years from now it's not a wormhole at all, it's something completely different. It's going to be something like that that gets us places. I don't know that we're always going to be relying on fuel or whatever. At least I hope not, because like Kyle said, if it does, then it's warp drive time. And then if you were actually able to go the speed of light, you would end up landing back home on a planet that had aged and everybody you knew was dead. So
Yeah. And speaking of wormholes, long distance, and coming back to a planet where everybody you know is dead, you know what movie that I watched this last week? I finally got around to watching it. I finally got around to watching Interstellar.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it, dude?
I haven't seen it yet either.
Everything that Sam just talked about is tackled in the movie Interstellar. It was actually really dope. It was a good movie.
I did see Matthew McConaughey's reaction to the Star Wars 2 trailer though, which I think was cut from scenes from Interstellar where he's just like crying in amazement. But did you see the? Okay, we're moving into entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle, can we get the new entertainment section theme song?
Fuck. Why you gotta call me out like that? I'll make one. I promise.
I'll make one this week. You called me out on the hoodie that my mom bought me 2 years ago for Christmas. Come on.
All right. You know what?
But we're moving into the
prepared.
But we are moving into the entertainment section, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle, you watched Interstellar, and can you give us a brief rundown, your thoughts and opinions? Was it a fresh tomato or a rotten one?
It was definitely fresh. It was a great movie. I expected, I'm like, Matthew McConaughey, and it's a big budget movie, but I was like, it'll probably be good, but not awesome. It tackled time travel, wormholes, difference in time in space, like Sam was talking about with traveling at the speed of light and gravity. It was. I don't want to give anything away because all I can say is just go watch it. It was really, really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
I have heard that the robot that they had in there that was like a weird thing. The robot.
Yeah, there's robots in it that like at first
what
the robots.
What do you call that? Kind of the same thing that was in the first Planet of the Apes. A monolith. He's kind of like
it's like a monolith. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
at first I was like, these robots are stupid, but they kind of grow on you a little bit. I still think they could have maybe made them designed a little bit better, but they were all right. They didn't ruin the movie by any means.
No,
it was
R2D2,
interesting though.
No R2D2s or BB-8s up in there.
Yeah, no BB-8, sadly. The coolest robot ever. My new favorite droid.
Yeah. Did you see when they show that that's like a practical effect how they did BB-8?
Yeah, it's real. Yeah, that's like a real, not a real robot, but like a real like RC robot. It's radio controlled.
I know. I missed you last week, Kyle, when I'm like, Sam, have you seen the new Star Wars trailer? And then back to back they released the Batman Superman trailer. And did you see that one, Kyle?
I have not seen the Batman Superman one yet. I heard about it though.
Okay, well I can't play it on here, but what I can do is show you news that just came out today, guys. This is our first look at Jared Leto as the Joker in Suicide Squad, which may also star Batman. Kyle, can you go to my screen and take a look at the first official image of Jared Leto as the Joker? He's got silver-crowned teeth because I think Batman previously knocked out all his teeth. When we first meet him, I believe he will be in Arkham Asylum. He's got one purple glove and a bunch of weird tattoos, Kyle. How do you feel about this image of Jared Leto as the Joker?
See, I'm kind of biased because I'll be honest, I really like Jared Leto. I think he's a great actor.
He's got one glove. Is it Michael Jackson?
Yeah. Michael Jackson Joker. He's made a few movies. What was the one movie that he made, which was I can't remember. It's like
Fight Club?
It was on Netflix. Like weird independent movie that was really amazing. He was in the Dallas Buyers Club, which was pretty good.
He paid a transvestite character that almost got nominated for an Academy Award or something, or got nominated for
and like
Golden Globes or some other shit.
I don't love his music. Like, I don't dislike it. I don't hate his music, but I'm not. I don't
Okay,
listen
he's
to
not
it. But
primarily known as a musician. He's known as an actor.
Who's he right with?
well, he has his
What
band's
band
pretty.
is he in?
He's 30 Seconds to Mars, right?
He's better than
I
Dog
could
Star?
take it. I
Keanu
could
Reeves?
take it.
He's better than Keanu?
I,
Who's better, Keanu or Jared Leto? No, I don't know. But how do you
Keanu's
feel?
got more to pull from.
Anything but hip hop.
He's got his one purple glove and other hand over the green hair, and he's primarily going to be in a suit. Well, while he's in the movie, not naked with all his weird ha 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 tattoos showing. So, I mean, is this?
It's much more of a comic book version of the Joker for sure, which is good because we've discussed this. That's what they're heading towards. They're going for like Justice League. So, yeah, I'm down.
How do you feel about he doesn't have scars or a disfigured sort of smile like maybe Jack Nicholson or Heath Ledger, but he doesn't have the scars up the side of his face, but he's got all his teeth knocked out, presumably from Batman is what they are sort of implying there. And he looks crazy. He shaved his eyebrows, he dyed his hair that crazy green. I mean, this looks pretty intense to me, and his face is kind of pale like the Joker. I mean, how do you guys feel about this? Look at his mouth. That's Joker-ish, right?
I approve.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
You know, one of the things that may have caused that, the tooth coming out, I wanted to mention as we entertainment section here. It might not have been Batman. It may have been really bad food. And Neil Young announces an anti-Monsanto album, The Monsanto Years, and DLAKE perhaps this could save the Joker's teeth. Music legend that takes down the Monsanto in new release. This is from Anthony Gucciardi of InfoWars. Anthony going into the entertainment news here. Legendary music icon Neil Young will be taking a stand against Monsanto in his latest album release, The Monsanto Years. In a move that highlights just how far awareness on the issue of Monsanto's toxic creations has come, Young, who a lot of you know will know from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, yes, that's him, will be working with the Willie Nelson Sons in highlighting Monsanto's activities in the new album. Just looking at the songs on the collection are revealing enough for the central message of the album. Some of the tracks are called Seeds, Too Big to Fail, Monsanto Years, and Rock Starbucks. Of course, in November of 2014, Young called for a boycott on Starbucks for their attempts to squash GMO labeling in Vermont. It says Neil Young is seeking a new source for his daily latte. The rocker announced on his website this week that he's boycotting Starbucks over the coffee company's investment in the lawsuit against the state of Vermont's new requirement to label genetically modified ingredients. Now, Young's new album stands as a precise indicator of just how far and wide the alarm has sounded over Monsanto's cancer-linked chemicals. These international health agencies now confirming that they have been warning you about for years. The resistance to treating our food simply as a chemical waste dump is growing. And whether it's Neil Young, Chuck Norris, or Dr. Oz, Anthony Gucciardi said he's very glad that major celebrities are joining in the fight. So there you go on that. A bit of news for the entertainment. I got one more that I'm going to get to because we have a show and I have to start loading at 4 and I haven't even left my house yet. So I'm going to do.
Real quick before you go, Sam, Kyle, it is the Hat Show today on the Media Speaks, and Sam, on my screen share, can you guys address Neil Young's hat right there?
I don't know. It looks like somebody needs to buy him a new hat.
I like that hat. That's kind of like, it's kind of stylish, but it's worn.
I mean, Neil Young is kind of old and worn. Like, how long has he had that hat? Where did he get it?
That seems like the kind of, like, if that dude, like, and I know he's a musician, so this is easy, but that hat specifically, if you were, like, playing an acoustic guitar and a guy came up that's that age in that hat and was like, let me show you something, you'd be like, I'm all ears. You obviously know everything about guitar.
Does that hat screams acoustic guitar to you?
Yeah.
If you listen to Keep On Rockin' in the Free World, that hat says, "Hey, I help mold punk."
That hat actually. All right, Sam. So what are you trying to say? You got a show to do tonight, Sam?
Yeah, and I've got one more news article to get to, then I'm gonna bounce out of here.
Wait, can I show you? All right. Do your news article quickly, and I want to show you something before you go.
Will do. Liberal journalist tries to shame Robert Downey Jr. as a conservative during an interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
PJ wrote this. Liberal media elites are threatened by influential celebrities who dare to deviate from the cookie-cutter political stereotype that compels them to regurgitate progressive viewpoints. Yeah, Hitler used to like to talk about progression, and what's that led to? 2015, when I woke up today and found out that Ukrainian Nazis burn a man on a cross. So yeah, that's progress. It says there was very much in evidence during the interview with film star Robert Downey Jr. conducted by UK Channel 4 Krishan Guru Murphy.
Yeah. Okay. That's all we need. Krishan Murphy Guru is a fucking UK douchebag. He tries to interview American celebrities. We want to talk about the Avengers 2: Age of Ultron. We don't get Alex, please. Let me speak, Alex. Fucking Robert Downey Jr. had every right to leave. That's the same fucking guru guy that fucking was trying to press Quentin Tarantino about his violence in movies. Look, UK, just go fuck off. These are American movies made for Americans. Americans know what they mean. We don't want to hear about his past trials and tribulations where he did drugs and was fucking in prison. Look, if we want to hear about that, we'll go read his book.
She tries to bring up his relationship with his dad, too.
And then he's like, oh, yeah, let me bring up your dead dad. Fuck you! And then he's like, oh, you're a liberal. Oh, you're not a liberal. You're not a liberal. So you're saying you're conservative. I'm out of here. I'm leaving this interview.
Wait. I need you for this. All right. Yeah, it was ridiculous, and that guy's stupid. And it's funny that he posted on Facebook afterwards. He posted the interview with the comment "sigh ... as if like he's above it. Like, oh, sigh, oh, Robert Downey Jr. It just got too emotional. It's like, no, dude. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is awesome, and you're some like douchey, overweight British guy that I've never heard of, and I don't really care.
Robert Downey Jr. is dead.
I would assume he was. I don't know. Is he dead? DLAKE, his dad? I don't know. He might be. But, Sam, I want to talk to you about something because we were talking about women before the show being overly obsessed with their cell phones.
Oh, my God.
And while during the science front, I ran away really quickly.
Cell phone addiction. My girlfriend loves her cell phone so much more than she loves me. I could tell by the amount of time that she spends with it willingly.
Careful, guys. Yeah. Don't be sexist.
So,
don't be
I
sexist.
got... During
Murphy
the science
Guru will try to interview you and say, what about the time you said that women are always on their cell phones? What about that?
Yeah,
Alex.
guys like Legos. That's true, too. Deal with it. But I got in the mail. The guy came and knocked on my door during the science front. I ran away really quickly. Check this bad boy out, Sam. This is my new cell phone. It does talk and text only. You can store 100 text messages. That's it. It has an FM radio built into it. You can hook up a Bluetooth, and that's about it. That's pretty much all it does.
You can hook up Bluetooth on that? I'm impressed.
Yeah, you can hook this up. You can do Bluetooth, or if you wanted to be lame, you can like Bluetooth your phone to this to receive calls on this from your iPhone, but that's lame. You can put a SIM card in it. The SIM card is in the mail. I haven't gotten my SIM card yet. It's probably going to come on Monday, but this is going to be my new phone. It's just
so
a basic
have a government butthole. I mean, a backdoor. I mean, intrusion, NSA backdoor.
That is awesome.
Yeah, but this thing, it's 2G. 2G.
That doesn't have a back door. That has a barn door wide open. That is awesome.
Yeah, but what are they going to find? This thing doesn't do internet. There's no internet.
I know.
It's just a basic. This is like it's a cell phone.
You can only store 100 texts. You can't even get a good sexting session done.
It's got a flashlight on it too. Let's see how that works.
Do you recommend that ISIS get this phone?
I recommend everybody get this phone.
I got it from.
Yeah, I probably got it from ISIS. That's who sent it to me.
Gambler?
Yeah. Isn't this thing dope? This is going to be my new phone. Hello? Yeah. So I don't need all the data. I don't need the Twitters. I can do that when I get home. I love Twitter. I love Facebook and stuff, but I can do that when I get home on my
Did
computer.
you
I
get
don't
a
need to be
holster
on it
for
all the
that
time.
thing? Did you get a belt holster for that thing?
I'm
A
looking for
back?
one. I got to
Did you
find
get a
one.
backpack for your new brick phone?
I'm gonna get a holster from like an old phone from the 80s that hopefully fits it. I gotta keep my eyes open at the thrift stores. And this phone was only $36 or $33, and the battery lasts for 13 hours of talking time, and it's like about a month of standby time.
Another benefit is it looks like it could be a gun or a taser in your holster there.
A month? What? You charge it what? It holds a charge.
I'll have to charge it reasonably. I'll have to charge it about once a week.
That's a trip.
I know, it's so dope. I can't wait to get the SIM card and completely rid myself of the smartphone.
I have this. I mean, like, I have a smartphone, but it's just like an old LG. It's not.
Oh, that's the same phone I got.
Yeah, you can drop it like 100 times and it will never die. That's why I like it.
Or no, mine's a Kyocera, but it's almost the same phone. But it's like
Yeah.
it's a cheap, like $40 cheap Android phone. But this thing's baller. The only thing that sucks is it doesn't have a headphone jack. Kind of
It doesn't
disappointed
have
about that. So I can listen to podcasts, but I can't but I have to listen.
How
through
about
the
Bluetooth headphones?
See, I gotta find out. I
does
gotta
Bluetooth.
experiment. I just got it like 20 minutes ago.
It said in that video that you sent me that it does do Bluetooth connection. So
Yeah, you got Bluetooth headphones.
It does, but I don't know if it does Bluetooth for that because you can play MP3s through it. So I was gonna start putting my podcasts on this when I like for work and stuff. But I need to be able to have headphones. But if I could do it through a Bluetooth headset, but I'm not sure if I can because like on my phone now I can listen to my podcast through a Bluetooth headset, but I needed a special app. So I don't know if it'll let me do that. We'll find out.
But yes, that's an awesome phone. And friends, I'm going to have to bow out early. Why? You can come and see me and tell me that I should have stayed. Where can you find me? I will be at Fastbacks. It's up near the Cleveland Airport. Friends, you can go to youtube.com/thecorrectviews, and you can also get a hold of me at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. I'm also on Tumblr, which, again, I know nobody is on Tumblr, so I think I'm the only one. Good night, friends. God bless. And Kyle and DLAKE, thank you greatly.
for sure, man.
See you later, Sam.
You might be
Excited
the
to
only
play
one
with
on
this phone.
Hotmail too, Sam.
Yeah, Sam, you can find Sam at correctviews@hotmail.com. You can find him at correctviews.tripod.com. You can find
him on MySpace / the correct views.
Yeah. MySpace, the correct views. myfacebook.com/correctviews. You can find him on on shortwave.
Find him on AM satellite. No, yeah, no.
You can contact him. His screen name on AOL Instant Messenger is correctviews69.
You can find him in the newspaper.
Yeah, you can find him. He has ads in the personals under politics.
You can find him if you see his flyer at the post office.
Mm-hmm. Rip off one of the little tags, and the phone number on there is his home phone. His home phone number. He's everywhere, man. He's everywhere in 1998.
You didn't see that Batman Superman trailer yet, dude?
I didn't. But you know what I have been watching?
What?
I watched a little Daredevil.
Oh, I already finished it.
Megan just finished it, so I have to watch like 2 episodes that she was watching without me.
You're down to the last 2?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. The
She'll
finale
probably
is
just fill
so epic. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's epic.
It's a pretty good show. Like, she loves it. She's like in love with the show. I think it's
Megan
good.
does,
like,
huh?
Yeah, she loves it. I mean, I thought it was good, but there's better shows.
No, I mean, wait a second. Congratulations, dude. I need to find a hot chick that likes Daredevil. Shouldn't be hard to find.
Like,
it's got 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, so there's probably a lot of hot chicks that like it.
Yeah, it was a really, really good show, but I didn't like fall in love with it like in the same way as a lot of people are. I did. I'm not like dissing it though. I liked it. I thought it's a good show.
No, that's because it's new to you, though. The way I fell in love with it is like a reminiscing kind of thing because I had all the Daredevil comics back in the day. So it's my favorite character. I've said that before.
See, we were
For it to
talking
come to
about
life on
this.
screen for me was like really incredible.
There's one thing that makes Daredevil a great superhero, and what it is like we were talking about this, like we were watching the show, and Megan said she's like, if I saw like a superhero with their mask, and then I saw him without their mask, I would totally be like, oh, that's you. Like Superman, like he takes off the glasses, or like Daredevil, just like in like the first few episodes, he just or like the most of the episodes, he just has like the thing over like his eyes. But you
Yeah, he's
can
got
see
the
all
black.
of this on his face. Like if you saw that dude and then you saw him as like just himself, you'd be like, oh, like you're obviously Daredevil. But the one thing that he has going for him is like any other superhero, like Batman, you would be like, oh, you're Bruce Wayne. I can obviously see that you're Bruce Wayne. But with Daredevil, what's his name? What's the guy's
Matt
name?
Murdock.
Matt Murdock. You'd be like, Matt, you look just like Daredevil, except that you're blind, so you're obviously not. Like, so that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
he's
one
got
thing
that going for him. It's like no one's gonna think that this, blind, sort of helpless, walking around with his cane and glasses kind of thing. It's like, oh, you're the guy doing all these flips and punching fucking dudes out. How can you even know
Yeah,
know
okay.
where they are? You're blind. So
Yeah, so that's like the one thing that he has going for him to protect his identity is like, you look just like Daredevil, except that you're obviously not because blind people can't be superheroes.
they
And
don't
then
have
he's
enough
just
time to see that you obviously look like Daredevil because he moves so fast and kicks so much ass. And how do you feel about the violence and brutality on the show? Do you feel good that it's on Netflix, that they can do that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, and yeah, like if that was on TV, they would not get away with a lot of the blood and a lot of the things that they do on it. I'm everything on Netflix, dude. Like I try and support. I'd still got to watch a
I
few
know.
of their
I mean,
new.
I feel like every time we talk about the best shit lately, it's like we're doing a commercial for Netflix.
Well, did you hear what Netflix just signed on for? A new TV show?
The Adam
Fuller,
Sandler.
Fuller House.
Oh, a Full House, like sequel kind of show.
Yeah, it's like they're pretty much continuing Full House, but like 20
Continuation.
years later.
Or is Mary-Kate and Ashley going to be on there and all that? Or
No, they on the Internet Movie Database page, they have like a few people confirmed. Some people speculated, and Mary-Kate and Ashley, they're just like, yeah, they won't be on it.
all the other girls have to get off drugs and leave their
Yeah.
husband for a few months to film the thing or whatever.
Yeah,
But,
well, the one was on drugs, and isn't
Tom
the other one?
Is Saget back on?
Yeah, Bob Saget's back on. Isn't
Alright.
the one the oldest sister? Isn't she married to Kirk Cameron?
Kirk Cameron.
I think
Wait,
she
Kirk
is.
Cameron? Oh, Kirk Cameron from
Yeah,
Growing
like-
Pains?
Growing Pains, Left Behind. Yeah, isn't she married
Oh,
to him?
Kirk Cameron shot himself. Oh no, wait, that's Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, that's Kurt Cobain. Pretty sure that she's married to him, and the other one, yeah, had like some serious drug issues. I wonder how much they're gonna play on like their actual lives and like I don't know.
Yeah, they'll be like, remember all those years when you were on crack cocaine? Like,
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up because I want to go play with my new phone. See how this bitch
and
works.
watch the last two episodes of Daredevil because you got to see you got to see the ending, man.
All right, I'll watch
It
it.
all brews to a head. That's all I can say without giving it away.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
you can find Sam. You can find him on. You can find
You
him
can
in a
find Sam
Yahoo
when
chat
his
room.
letter is delivered to you by the U.S. Postal Service.
Yes, you can get letters from Sam. You can join his mailing list at the Correct Views P.O. Box. You can find Sam. You can find the Correct Views carved into the side of an old oak tree.
Or on youtube.com/the correct views. You can find DLAKE by looking up David Lake on YouTube. See the awesome Captain America shield. You can find Kyle Phillips and The Media Speaks by looking up Kyle Phillips or themediaspeaks.com, anywhere on the internet. And if you don't find us that way, you might have problems using the internet. I don't know. You might want to check your connection, make sure everything's plugged in correctly.
Restart your modem.
Refresh your modem and your computer and then type in themediaspeaks.com. And if we don't come up, then you spelled it wrong or
Contact your system administrator.
yeah, please contact contact your administrator and the FBI and the NSA at clintonemail.com.
Yes.
We use a private server in our Chappaqua home so that it's safe. The Secret Service is guarding it 24/7. So there's the Energizer with her big boobs, she can't get into the system, and everything is good. So find us at themediaspeaks.com. That's the best way. Watch
He speaks
Daredevil.
on Twitter.
Buy Netflix. No.
Get
Okay.
Netflix.
Yeah, get Netflix, and ideally Netflix will be sending us a check for saying that.
I don't even need, even if they don't, still get Netflix.
You can find DLAKE on Schmoes Know Movie channel and their podcast when I call in all the time, and like I always have the best questions on the show. And then it's always the most up to date thing, so that's always awesome. And sometimes I'm on AMC Movie Talk with my questions, so that's always cool. You can always find me staying up to date on the most recent movie news and entertainment, like the latest picture of Jared Leto as the Joker, like we did today. And we talked about Hillary Clinton and her Clinton cash and Bill Clinton, and are they going to go to jail? We don't know. We talked about filming the police. That was awesome. So everyone, like when I was on the trolley, I wish I'm going to get a new phone soon that takes video. So maybe I could have recorded that for the show. Look forward to me recording more awesome stuff when I'm out there. And thanks,
look forward to me not, because my phone doesn't have a camera.
Yeah, look forward to Kyle never getting any video on his brick phone. And thank you all for joining us today on Hat Day at themediaspeaks.com. And I'm getting more messages. So I will talk to you guys later. Peace out.